Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we're getting ready for the Red Raiders and the Cougars. Texas Tech welcoming in top 25 Houston. We'll have facts and factors to get to. We'll also take a look at the Big 12 schedule at large. It's definitely a show me slate involving the show me state, and those are bars. And we're getting into Chris's conversation on the radio with Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire and defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider!
Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us on Locked On Texas Tech, your team every day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. With Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, and today's episode brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has got you covered like grandma's quilt this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever. BetOnline, where the game starts. Chris, we're not too far away from a meaningful football game, my man, and we'll have plenty on that coming up in just a moment. But you got your weekly opportunity to visit with Joey McGuire as part of the Joey McGuire Show on local radio. And, of course, deservedly so. I know that you guys were quick to spend some time talking about the guy we saw leave last week's game and starting quarterback Tyler Shough.
Yeah, Casey, I did. I got to visit with Coach, because he had mentioned on Monday, I guess this was, that, hey, look, we're not going to know anything until he visits with Dr. Crawford on Wednesday. This is something we kind of talked about as this week went along. All I can tell you is tonight he's still saying it's still 3 to 6. I think they feel pretty good about things, I guess is my point. It's still 3 to 6 weeks. But I clarified with Coach McGuire, and I think this is the big takeaway, because I think, look, when this happened to Tyler last year and he went down in Austin, we never saw him again. We didn't see him again until the spring. Joey was very, made it very clear, because, I asked that. I'm like, so, hey, you're not saying this is out for the season or anything? I say, no. So, yeah, he's like, anytime we get news like this, and it's not season ending or anything like that, we take it as good news. And I absolutely agree. So that doesn't mean we will see Tyler Shough playing quarterback, the rest of this season, because if Donovan comes in and rolls, then there's no need to change it. However, yeah, the way that Tech schedule, kind of work, there's a bye week in there too, so anyway, right. I want to make that clear that, maybe by mid-October he's back, at the latest. I can't say for sure, but yeah, I think they feel relatively good about it compared to what it could have been, and I'll take that as good news.
I wonder, is this a situation where, certainly you have to believe there's no reserve spot. There would have to be probably something unsatisfying going on with Donovan Smith's play or whoever's in there for Shough at some point to be back in the mix, or how do you view it because of what Donovan's resume was a year ago?
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think even when Tyler is cleared and maybe he's practiced just a bit and they feel like, okay, we could throw him in there. I don't think that he would just come back and play, take the starting job back, I should say.
Right.
Unless there is a need for that, unless there is other injuries, or unless the quarterback play has been less than stellar, and it's like, okay, we need a spark. I can just tell you this, and it was made. The point was made to me again by Coach McGuire tonight. He just look. There was a difference in Tyler and Donovan and Barron in fall camp. That is clear. He won the job fair and square. And it's no slight on the other two, but I also don't think that comes with, okay, as soon as he's back and healthy and cleared, that he just jumps to the front of the line again. That's not how this is going to work, in my opinion. But
right, because there was a small margin between them, right? It was I don't want to say a razor thin, but mean, there was a competition that had to play out.
There was, but I think that what Joey's trying to say to me is, hey man, there was some stuff that like Tyler was better, like period. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So. But again, a lot of things can happen over the next month to 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever, and we're not sure what this team's going to look like. We're not sure what the quarterback play is going to look like. We won't know about a lot of things. But the good news is that Tyler Shough may be back in the mix or available at some point. And because I kind of had feared the worst that, okay, well, that's it. He's out for the year, but that's not the case.
Well, so much seems so similar to what we saw last season. So there's good reason, whether it's you on the sideline or fans in the stands, to think exactly that, and certainly feel for the guy and rooting for him because he's easy to root for with whatever process he's got coming up. I know he's taken a lot of maturity and probably some wisdom from the last time around that maybe he can apply to this one. So hopefully we have a chance to talk about him, and he'll have that chance to get back in a position to compete maybe later on this season, Chris. But as for right now, it's Donovan Smith. I wonder, back to Joey McGuire, did you detect any vibe change? Was he running a little hotter? I mean, it's a different scenario with a top 25 opponent in state. It ain't FCS matchup time again this weekend at the Jones. Did you sense anything different from Coach McGuire?
Not even a little bit. He's as calm as he was headed home. I think the inside linebackers, were eating dinner at his house tonight. He's going to have a different position group there every Thursday night. It's just kind of what they do, and NCAA allows coaches and things like that to have a dinner a week, I think, at home. But no, he showed up early. He was about 30 minutes early to a show, which was
he lost?
Well, yeah, this is a shocker to me. I've had coaches. I'll let you guess, but I've had coaches that showed up 30 minutes late to shows before. To their own show, mind you. But no, he was great. He's very calm. I think they know what they're getting into. I think they're ready for it. I think he felt good about the week of practice. I think he feels good about what they'll do between now and when we're talking to you in game time. No, it was really just the same guy, smiling, happy, excited for the opportunity.
Well, that's good to hear. I know that you also talked to Texas Tech defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter, and I want to get to a big picture here in just a minute. But I'm curious about one name, because you mentioned this name to me, I think, post-game last week. And I think you guys talked about it again, Myles Cole.
Yeah, so we started talking about Tyree Wilson, okay? And, because Coach DeRuyter, he coached Kayvon Thibodeau at Oregon last year, who was a top 10 pick for the Giants, I believe. And, and he's like, and obviously Tim DeRuyter also coached Von Miller at Texas A&M when he was there. So he knows what top end guys look like, and those two are, Von Miller going to be a Hall of Famer, and Thibodeau, obviously top 10 pick and just now getting his career going. So we started talking about Tyree Wilson, and he just talks about, he said, man, Tyree is actually bigger than Thibodeau is and all that. And he goes, I'm telling you, I've been around it. And he goes, I think Tyree's got a chance to be, a day one pick, which is just the first round. And he goes, but he's sure at the top half of the draft and all that. But anyway, as we started talking, which we kind of already knew this, right? We've talked about Tyree. We kind of already knew he's on the radar and all that. But what piqued my interest is he said, whenever NFL scouts come through or have come through, or when they did come through back in the spring and summer and now even in recent weeks in fall camp, they ask about two guys on my side of the ball. That's number 19, which is Tyree Wilson, and number 5, which is Myles Cole. That was a bit of an eye-opener for me, because this is a young man that has just gotten here from one of those colleges in Louisiana. And I made this point on the broadcast the other day, Casey, in that when I'm down there on the field and you're looking at these guys up close, if you swap numbers, you wouldn't really know any difference as far as measurables and looks, because Myles Cole is absolutely 6'6", 280, 275. They're clones of each other. But that was news to me that, okay, NFL scouts are all over this guy already. And so I think, man, because if you're talking about, you got a couple of NFL type guys up front, and those names aren't Hutchings and Bradford and some of the other guys you've got, I feel like, man, that could be pretty good. Now, it's up to them to go do it, and reach that potential. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure we pointed that out.
Yeah, no doubt. I had to look into him after you mentioned his name last time around. Wasn't very familiar with him. A Louisiana Bill Monroe transfer
that's right.
with 2 years, I believe, to play, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
2 years to play at Tech.
Well,
I mean, if he,
yeah, and I think Tyree does too. But wink, wink. We'll see how that goes.
Hey,
yeah.
I hope we have that problem.
Yeah.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, a Shreveport, Louisiana native, and I know for a fact that you can learn some things down there that they don't teach in school. So there's no telling what type of bag of tricks he's got in the trenches. And man, it would almost seem like a bonus, Chris, one of those times where you hit the transfer market and you cash in, which some other guys on campus have done some great jobs with, mostly in the basketball gym. But maybe this will be one of those opportunities for Joey McGuire and company.
My bachelor party was on a casino riverboat in Shreveport, Louisiana, and at the horse races in Shreveport, Louisiana Downs. I spent some messy times back there in the
riverboat man.
That's right,
riverboat man, huh?
Back in '96, maybe.
Wow.
I guess. Yeah, the summer of 1996, man. Yeah, Shreveport. I'm all about me some Shreveport. They got a minor league team there that is Shreveport Captains. I mean, I'm all about that.
Let's go Independence Bowl, right?
That's Independence Bowl. Been there several times. Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, shout out to Shreveport, man. If you're out there,
I'm envious of your riverboat experience, dude. That takes you up in any man's book, I think. That's right. A dream of every man, and I've never been on a riverboat.
There you go.
I'd like for somebody to be thrown over on the side, preferably in a suit from the 1800s if I'm on there. I'm basically thinking of the movie Maverick now.
I drank so many gin and tonics that night that I saved the little stir straw in there. And I bet I had over 12 of those straws in my pocket at the end of the night. I'm not proud of it. I've never had gin since then. And that's a true story, man. I mean, you could have built a little house with as many straws as I had in my pocket, and I've never partaken of that particular clear sauce since.
You drank the swamp dry that night, man.
I told
you. You can learn some things down there. They don't.
But shout out to Myles Cole. Yeah, shout out to
Myles Cole, a Louisiana guy, and I hope we got plenty of reason to hear you mention his name coming up this weekend. We'll get back specifically to Texas Tech and Houston, breaking down the matchup with facts and factors coming up in a bit. And directly ahead, we'll talk Big 12 slate for the weekend, because there is certainly an opportunity to make an early season statement. I don't want to act like it's the end-all, be-all, but some big spots for a few Big 12 programs, including Texas Tech. And we'll get to that coming up next. But first, I want to remind you to check out our friends at betonline.net. College football season is just getting revved up. Already 1 week in the books, though, so you don't want to spend too much time on the sideline. So get hooked up with BetOnline, your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments with BetOnline. It's your continued source for all wagering information, live betting, esports, scores, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite events. Major League Baseball, NFL kicking off this weekend, college football, boxing, golf, MMA, video games. I mean, anything. Look, you're going to find it there at BetOnline, where the game starts. It's Locked On Texas Tech, your team every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us with Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Red Raiders and Cougars from Jones Stadium coming up Saturday afternoon, and we're back to it. Back to the matchup coming up in just a moment with facts and factors leading into Joey McGuire's first opportunity to topple a top 25 opponent as the head coach of Texas Tech. But first wanted to step outside of that realm into the Big 12, because you got quite a weekend of games here, more than a few to be interested in, Chris, and it gets started early with some of these 11 a.m. kickoffs, of course, primarily the University of Texas and the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah, this is show and tell this weekend, man. I mean, this is a really good, as bad as last weekend was, overall, this one is equally as good. And this is, you mentioned the game in Austin, and 20.5, 21-point underdogs are the Longhorns. Yep. And, Steve Sarkisian basically already trying to say, this game won't define us, good or bad. I'm worried about the conference race. It can't help us win the conference race. But, I mean,
Come on, guy. Come on.
I mean, here's the point that I will make here about this game. Most people, regardless of the result, most people will overreact to it. This game in particular. If Alabama rolls, people are going to really pile on Texas and probably overreact and bury them for dead and all that stuff. If it's a close game, people are going to say Texas is pretty good, and all it's all going to be overreaction about the result of this game, in my opinion. But people will tell you too, I think, around Tuscaloosa, this may be one of Nick Saban's best teams he's ever had. Now, do they play that well right out of the gate? I don't know, but
that's frightening.
Yes, but for Texas, all the talk has been, man, if we could just not if we can just cover. I mean, if they can just keep it within 3 touchdowns, folks, they're at home. Okay, this is a early kick, which is most of the time bad for the road team. Right. So I don't know what we'll see, but kind of fat. Yeah, but I worry for Texas's offensive line. That's would be my concern against that Will Smith and that Crimson Tide defensive line. But it should be a fun game.
I really don't know how to feel about a Texas team that could lose by or be expected prior to the game to lose by 3 scores, because still you're thinking about the University of Texas, for crying out loud. And I know that Steve Sarkisian.
Well, Kansas just beat them last year.
I understand.
In Austin.
It's just hard to fathom.
I get it.
Even though Steve Sarkisian is going nowhere fast, I mean, we all know what's going on, I think. I don't know if he does, but I would assume that most understand that Steve Sarkisian, at least in my opinion, not a long-term answer. And we know that there's going to be a pathway from San Antonio to Austin available at some point, you would think, in the relatively near future. But it's just hard to reconcile that while you're looking at these two brands that occupy a similar sphere as far as marketability, you're looking at 2 different universes as far as on-field success. And I'm going to go ahead and say, I'll take option 1, Chris. Put me down for the pile-on. That's my preferred overreaction. I'd like to pile on Texas on the other side of this weekend. And I think that's probably actually what we're going to get the opportunity to do. And we'll get it early in the day. So maybe we'll be in a good mood by the time we get to kick off at 3 o'clock here locally. How about Missouri K-State? Little old Big 8 heat. Like seeing this matchup again.
Yeah, this one's, I think it's a good regional game. And shockingly, it hasn't been played since, I think, 2011 is the last time these 2 teams played, which that's bizarre to me. But I think we're going to start to find out, how good Deuce Vaughn and Adrian Martinez, who didn't play particularly well last weekend, but I think Deuce Vaughn is one of the better players in the entire conference as far as a weapon and the way that they use him and all those things. But be interested to see because Kansas State's at home, they're favored by about, 8 or 9 points, give or take. And but if they take care of business here, Kansas State's one of these sneaky good teams I think a lot of people are very high on. And was it Drinkowitz? Is that Dinkowitz? Is that the head coach's name at Missouri? Elijah or Eli?
Drinkowitz? I thought you might be an old college buddy now, Drinkowitz. That was a wild guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Left his shoes at the gate of campus. He wouldn't wear them on campus. It's like an Asian thing.
Some riverboat in Shreveport. It's probably where he learned how to sauce it up. That's right.
Last I heard was actually paddling on a riverboat in Shreveport somewhere. It wasn't a glamorous gig. It was one of the lower tier riverboats that you'll find. Obviously, Texas Tech and Houston up next on the slate chronologically. And that is not anything to do with Dr. Dre or Long Beach, California, for the kids who are wondering. We'll get to that one in our final conversation with you today. Facts and factors on the Red Raiders and Cougars coming up. How about a little bit of agricultural beef? Iowa State over under 3.5, I think. Something like that for these guys. Could take them all day to get into the red zone. But I don't mind that kind of football because, I'm just a football fan, Chris, and sometimes the game's played out that way.
This game has been, we mentioned this the other day about Mike Gundy and how they've rolled for the last decade, really, but they can't beat Oklahoma consistently, or he can't. And so that's the knock. When you talk about how great they are and all that. Well, this is who Iowa is to Matt Campbell. I mean, he can't beat Iowa. And now this game is at Iowa. The Cyclones are on the road. And maybe this will be a year when there's not a ton of expectations on the Cyclones, and maybe they finally get it done. But this has been, Matt Campbell's just bugaboo, man. It's elephant in the room. He just can't get that game done, and they've done it in a wild fashion at times, just screwing it up. These games are always really close, but we'll see kind of if Matt Campbell and his Cyclones can finally get past the Hawkeyes, but they haven't been able to do it yet.
This one only interesting to me because it's Neil Brown in West Virginia, who looked like they were finding a way to lose last time around. Yeah. But you've got an early conference clash with the Jayhawks here. You interested in this one at all? West Virginia minus 13.5. I'm seeing at home.
I think there's a couple things here that I'll point out before we move on to the next game. One, I think that point spread is actually healthy respect to the University of Kansas. I mean, because there's been times we've seen – it doesn't matter who they were playing. Road games for Kansas, it was 28, 30-point spreads. It didn't matter who they were playing in the league. And I think so that makes me kind of interested. The second thing is, if this game is close, or if somehow Kansas pulls off an upset, it just makes you wonder, how loud the noise is going to get about Neil Brown and how
deafening.
Yeah, and I do think Kansas is actually, they're improved because, I mean, people will tell you, man, Lance Leipold is a hell of a football coach, and he does it the right way. I heard this last year from not just the previous tech staff, but other folks in the league. He doesn't have the talent yet, but they just coach him well. Their schemes are sound and all that stuff. And now he's got a quarterback that he didn't lose to the portal. So it's just kind of a conference game, though, that's buried here. It's like we just got going, and they're just burying a league game, and all these other games are going to overshadow it. So it's kind of a weird fit on week 2, I guess.
Yeah, kind of odd. How about the 6:30 and then the nightcap, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, BYU there at 9:15. Those could be fun.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State rolls. Arizona State, I don't think the Herm Edwards' team is great. I think that's a double-digit favorite for Oklahoma State. I'm sure that it was teachable moments for Oklahoma State after they get way up and then they're not, and they just kind of rolled over. The fascinating game, though, to me is the BYU-Baylor game. This is at some point, just like what the Red Raiders are dealing with, this is going to be a future conference game. These two teams played last year, and BYU is good. They are very good, and this is a long trip for the Baylor Bears. I think Baylor is faster. I think BYU is older and very physical. However, Baylor is very physical on the lines of scrimmage. This is the reason that Joey's talked about we need more big people here, like the previous place I was at.
Mass kicks ass.
Yeah, that's right. And he'd always say, hey, big people beat up little people all the time. That's how it goes. I think Baylor wins a very close game here. And I think this is almost one of these games too. It's going to kick off fairly late, but yeah, I'm fascinated to watch it. It's a cultural difference. It's, it's just, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting game to watch. But again, this is going to be these games we're going to be seeing all the time when BYU is in the league.
It's the altercation, 3 A's, no E. I like that. I hope that continues whenever BYU gets into the league. I like the Bears on the road. I'm seeing BYU -3 as we sit here today heading into the weekend. But I like Dave Aranda and the guys, tech guy, brilliant mind. I'm sure he'll go up there and wow us all with what he's able to do against BYU. But, man, BYU will be a fun addition to have here in the Big 12 not too long from now. Chris, real quick, while we're on the notion of scheduling, before we get the Tech in Houston to wrap up the week here with facts and factors coming up, are you paying any attention here locally to the noise being made about conversations or fantasy conversations as it relates to future non-conference series with our Red Raiders and the University of Texas? Has that gotten your attention yet?
Yeah, so I'll just give you some background there as I know it. About a year ago, whenever everything was hitting the fan with realignment and all these things, there were a lot of Texas Tech intermediaries, president, athletic director, several high level donors, and other key figures as like representing Texas Tech went to Austin, and they had, I think, multiple meetings with Governor Abbott and other folks down there, because this was like, you feel like you had the rug pulled out. We didn't know this is going to really, put Texas Tech and Lubbock in a bind financially, and because at the time you hadn't expanded the league yet and all that. And so I think one of the things that came out of that was, hey, we will ensure that you guys play University of Texas for the next 20 to 25 years. Nobody signed a contract, but everybody walked away going, okay. And so I bring up a year ago to say to you that it was in Houston. The Red Raiders have played, University of Houston at NRG Stadium to open up the season last year. The night before that game, Kirby Hocutt, there was a big speaking engagement and a ton of donors in Houston. We know there's a Tech alumni there, and he told everybody, here's what's going to happen. And so it was kind of really no longer a secret. I had been made aware of it. I had heard about it, but he kind of told everybody, this is what we're doing. And now as we look back a year from then, now I don't know if they feel as confident in that. And I think there's, shocker, political folks maybe not following up with their word. I don't know. But we don't ultimately know, Casey. I have paid attention to this to answer your question. Sorry I gave you a long answer. But
No, it sounds like it. I picked up on that.
yeah, I hope that they figure this out. I hope that they play. We won't ultimately know what the future of this thing is until Texas isn't in the league anymore. That's the main thing. But I get it. Texas doesn't have anything to gain out of it. But it would be crucial for the Red Raiders. And I want to keep playing them in basketball. I mean, how fun was that? And baseball too. I mean, I just think that would really suck, man, if they're just gone and you don't get to play them anymore.
Regional matchups are what make the college world go round in so many different ways. At least historically, they have. And Chris, I was really forced to confront what type of games you want to have and what you're really after as a fan, at least for me. And it is those types of regional matchups. You've lost some big ones and stand to potentially lose some more. But, man, there are some great series that go by the wayside. Texas is not one of them. They've shellacked the Red Raiders just like they do everybody else in the state historically. I was looking into this not too long ago, and, the Aggies have about the best shot at the Longhorns out of those in state. They've won at a 31% clip. Real special. Baylor, Tech, Texas Christian range from 23 to 29%. Tough sledding, right? So when you're talking about the competitiveness of the series, either justifying it or not justifying playing it, I just kind of throw that out the window because it's the same for a lot of folks that are squaring up in that way. But I'm not even so desperate to keep the University of Texas on the schedule. I never had the same kind of heat, obviously, as I felt in that Aggie series where you're separated by only 4 games, although you're separated by about, 40 years of establishment and maybe $50 million year in and year out at least. Still have only found 4 different opportunities to beat you over the years. It's those types of series, much like Tech and Baylor separated by a game, Tech and Texas Christian, I think 3 wins there separating those two. Those are the types of series that I think really give college sports their juice. Problem for a Tech fan in this situation, the problem for me in this situation is that, the University of Texas, the Aggies, they've seen, especially the University of Texas, seen these most historic rivalries put back on the schedule. Aggies, Arkansas, Oklahoma. So it's hard to say that they're diluting anything, really. So I don't know if we're just hoping for some benevolence, but I'm not holding my breath for honestly any of it, maybe outside of a postseason setting. I think I'm having to come to grips with that.
Yeah, and you might be right. I mean, I don't know what, I think there was a lot of talk about, yeah, man, we control a lot of the votes out here in the oil and gas industry out here and agriculture. I mean, we have a lot of say-so in who's in the governor. I mean, there was a lot of, twisting of arms and like squeezing,
Sure.
The game was being played at the highest of levels. And so I don't know where this is all kind of coming from, because I think it's maybe Chris Del Conte that is basically telling Texas alumni, we're not, maybe not be doing that, or, I don't know anything about that. I mean, he's just kind of hemming and hawing. So, and he's he's as slippery as they come, man. Everybody that will tell you that's ever worked with the guy or knows him, he's, slick and, slippery and all that stuff. So I don't think you can trust him at all at his word if that's in fact what he gave at the time. But I don't even know if
Well,
text. Yeah. But
he's not the guy. I don't even think ultimately is going to be the one that's either green lighting or red lighting.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. But
you're right. He's got the backbone of Frosty the Snowman. I mean, the dude was born to wear a lilac shirt, and Chris Beard chose to go work for a guy from UC Santa Barbara. Wow, what a story! Before we get out.
I appreciate the Frosty the Snowman reference, though, by the way. Yeah.
It's about that time of year.
That's right. That's right.
Saw one at Costco the other day. Are you guys maniacs? It's September for crying
you
out loud.
lunatic. Yes.
And now I'm about to tell you about the fall as we're getting into the fall. Not Christmas, not Halloween, not Thanksgiving, just good old fall. It's that time of year. We're going to get to Tech in Houston and break it down with facts and factors before we are out of here. But first, before we move on to that, I do have to tell you about our friends at Flatlands Grain, geared up for the fall to take care of your grain storage needs. They've got all bases covered with crop analysis, market experience, taking care of feeding your animals. I mean, they're going to take care of you. And Chris, as we mentioned, every time we talk about these guys, we all know that agriculture, oil and gas, these things turn the Texas Tech world. So we always are glad to be supported by and associated with those who are taking care of those people, just like Flatlands Grain does.
It makes it go, man. And we certainly appreciate the folks at Flatland Grains. And yeah, you're right, man. I mean, agriculture, oil and gas, all that's why we love this part of the state. We love so many people that are involved with those lines of businesses, man. And as I said the other day, hashtag West Texas, man. Deal with it.
These are Red Raiders, and
Yes.
They are centrally and conveniently located, Health Center, Texas, just 30 quick minutes north of Lubbock. And their goal at Flatlands Grain is to build lasting relationships and provide reliable service for the farming communities across the South Plains. So visit their website at flatlandsgrain.com or give them a call at 806-839-2522. That's 806-839-2522. Wheat, corn, Milo, a truckload, thousands of bushels, anything you need, they're ready to be at your service. The Red Raiders at Flatlands Grain, looking forward to serving you this fall and saying, get your guns up, wreck 'em Tech. See them at flatlandsgrain.com. Thanks for making us a part of your day. It's Locked On Texas Tech. Wherever, whenever, however you're dialing us up, we appreciate it, and appreciate it even more if you are subscribing on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. Do it now if you haven't already, and many thanks to those who have. I know we feel the same on that, Chris.
Absolutely, man. On the chase to 2,000 maybe, or 1,500. I don't know. Got to get to 1,500 first. But, yeah, we certainly blew by the $1,000 subscriber mark. Yeah, we appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Keep on coming on with it. They're on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast. Wrapping it up like we do every Friday, getting ready for the matchup, Tech in Houston tomorrow with facts and factors. And you've got a fact that could play a factor, I think, Chris, is the Cougars are coming into this one in the midst of a series skid against the Red Raiders. 4 straight going the wrong way.
Yeah, this is because, look, I think Houston's kind of a pain to deal with. I think they're always competitive. They're going to be good. You've got 3 former players playing for them. They've been relevant in recent years. I think they've had some really, really good seasons. They have a coach that – but, yeah, this is you've had some success against these guys. I mean, 4 straight, okay? I think 17, 18, 2021, the last 3 of them. And I think, you've won 9 of 10, which goes back, I believe, to 1991 is when that streak kind of started. So I've only played them on average every 3 years. But at some point, this is going to be an every year deal. And at some point too, you're not going to have a lengthy, I don't know, maybe you can keep it up, but odds are, you won't have like this lengthy winning streak against Houston, but I certainly hope you do. But
Sure.
I think that that's chip on the shoulder kind of type stuff coming in here. They know that. They know that they're, conference rival at some point soon. So anyway, we'll see if the Red Raiders' recent success that streak is snapped or extended, I guess, on Saturday.
I'm going to go with a fact, and the fact was that last year Taj Brooks was slicing and dicing the Houston Cougars to the tune of 134 yards on 15 carries. That's just under 9 yards per carry, which is decent. Got into the end zone twice, had a big hitter, 44 yards. I mean, the guy had a ball game early on in the season, Chris, and I'm sure that they have not forgotten about that. I don't even care if it's Taj, if it's Sir Roderick, if it's the both of them. I'd love to see something similar, but I got to tell you, I'm questioning a little bit the offensive line's ability to carve out some of that space, because it seemed like some of what we saw from Thompson and Brooks last week was some individual talent, maybe making some things happen as opposed to running through gaping holes. And I don't think it gets any easier for the O-line this week.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I mean, that's a matchup that I'm certainly fascinated by is your front, including your tight ends and your O-linemen and everything, versus what Houston will, because Doug Belk is a really good defensive coordinator for Houston. He changes the looks, and they've got some players, and they can even I think they call themselves Sack Avenue or something, because they've got so many cumulative sacks and things like that on that side of the ball. But I think Taj last year, that's really when he kind of emerged as a dude. I mean, I think that we hadn't seen that breakaway speed or those big giant plays, and now he kind of does it on a regular basis. But to me, the biggest key will be which quarterback effectively runs the most. That really will, because I think Clayton Tune, they're going to call stuff for him, especially in the red zone. And that's how they won the game, obviously, but they run some QB counter stuff. They go empty, and then they'll turn him loose a little bit with their sets. And I think Clayton Tune is going to cause some problems just because he's good and he's going to run. But I think that Donovan Smith can do the same. I don't know if Tyler Shough would have been able to do that as much as Donovan potentially could. So I think whichever QB run game may be the most, not that either team's going to major in it, but I think it's when you use it and how effective it is when you do use it. And then there's going to be the one that you can't account for, like where somebody just says, okay, nothing's here, I'm taking off, I'm going, and all that. Because Donovan's good enough to take it to the house. And I think Clayton Tune is too, because we just saw him do that and somersault in the end zone against UTSA and win a big game.
Yeah, I hope it's more of a Rosencopter kind of somersault if he takes to the air this time.
With the ball flying out,
yeah, against the Red Raiders. Here's my last point on this one, and you just mentioned the ball flying out. Did give up a fumble last week, the Cougars did, but last year, 4 takeaways for the Red Raiders, and they were 4 picks from the aforementioned Mr. Tune. Fortunately, didn't see a takeaway for Texas Tech in week 1, but how about getting busy once again in that column against this guy that you had one of your better days of the year against last season?
Yeah, and I talked to a guy tonight that picked off one of those passes in Reggie Pearson. And I'm ready to hear The Purge. Okay, the theme song from the movie The Purge.
But wait. I got a question.
Okay.
I feel like you think this is a song. Do you and others think this is a song? Because I've seen this out there.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. I'm aware of about the first 45 to 50 seconds of it when it sounds like. Because
I thought it was just like the. Isn't it just a horn?
Well, it depends on how much that they will actually play during the game. Because I don't know the part. I don't know the part that they've cut to play in house. But if you, I'll tell you what, I'll Google you the video. But if they
purging through the snow in a 1-horse purging sleigh, that's the song.
Anyway, but
just something that's been on my mind. I've heard people say, "When are we going to hear the Purge song?" And I'm like, I don't think it's a song.
It's like it's basically the sound that everybody's going to make whenever you can go commit murder and not get in trouble for
like
it,
some type of foghorn, as I understand it.
Yeah, exactly. But,
hey, I got one more hard-hitting question for you before we wrap the week up. I don't know if you saw this graphic. I think it was actually from the University of Houston or their football program's Twitter page. Nice-looking graphic. Actually taking a shot at Kirk Bryant with a Bachelor-esque Jones Stadium scoreboard in the background. But that's not what I'm interested in. That was actually just kind of funny. Real small and like in the back. You had to really be weird enough to know what any of that means to even notice it, I think. Cougar, Black Stallion squaring off on this graphic. Who's winning this matchup? Because I can get lost in animal brawl YouTube videos all day long, my friend. So I'm actually curious, who's winning this matchup toe-to-toe?
From the cat family, the big cat family, I'm only afraid of a leopard, a panther, a lion. Cougar is just, I think, the smallish. I think in my mind of if the word mountain is in front of it, or snow is in front of one of these big cats, I'm a little more frightened because I'm like, okay, this is really specific. This isn't my territory on a mountain or in the snow. But yeah, a cougar, it just seems kind of like a step up from a feline to me.
I'll take the horse.
I'll take Centennial Champion.
I think Centennial Champion. Well, I don't know if he may be a lover, not a fighter. I really don't know. I had to put that on him. But in general,
he was a fighter last week. I can tell you that. He was not happy.
That's true.
Yeah.
What kind of omen was that?
He was not. He was feisty. And yeah, I mean, rookie a little bit, but finally they got him calmed down. But yeah, he was not having it, man. And so I don't want any part of that deal.
This is what you're here to hear broken down, right? I mean, facts and factors. We really want to know, like, who's winning the matchup of the Twitter animal graphic. And yeah, I'm going with the horse. I think just the sheer power and weight differential. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know how it goes.
Well, the last question I have for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lemon lime Gatorade is what color?
Yellow.
No, you had it right, man. You shouldn't have changed.
It's definitely not. I thought you were going to say limon pepino.
No, I've seen all that stuff. No, it's
cucumber,
green.
Baby.
It's green. Yeah, lemon lime.
It's incorrect, but I won't hold it against you because I'm trying to make for a long-lasting show here. So we want to build a relationship. Hey, a good way to do that, by the way, and also prove to you that not every cougar is small. Said the chances are tomorrow night. I'll show you some of them big. There's a wide spectrum of cougars here in the LBK any Saturday night. So just let me know if maybe you want to hook up and establish a little show synergy this weekend following a Red Raider win. Hey, following Locked On Texas Tech, make sure that you're checking out Locked On Big 12 with our guy Josh Neighbors, breaking it all down all across the conference with local experts of Locked On Podcast Network. I added an apostrophe S in a weird way there. They're going to take you across the Big 12 in 30 minutes with Josh Neighbors. That's Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Check it out after Locked On Texas Tech. Chris, have a great game day, and we'll be back to visit post-game following Red Raiders and Cougars. So we invite everybody to join us on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcast, as we'll have another post-game conversation coming up later on Saturday.
Keep hope alive, people. Guns up.
Big opportunity for Joey McGuire and the boys Saturday afternoon from Jones Stadium. He's the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Thanks for joining us for Locked On Texas Tech.